Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the fantasy football counselor, in the studio here, and I got Tom Santinello online. What's going on, Tommy Guns?
What's going on?
Exciting show here for you guys. We did our preview show a couple days ago, but I wanted today to talk about the recap of Thursday Night Football with Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. A lot of fantasy implications there, but also talk about the latest news and notes, news, injuries, everything you need to know going into week 2 here, because there is some notable injuries we got to talk about, some current situations with some certain players. I also do a last minute news and notes on Sunday morning, but it's important that we cover some of this stuff going into the weekend, because some people just edit their lineups on Friday, Saturday. You should be editing up to the minute because things change, and there are some guys that are day to day and could or could not be playing. So Tom, let's start off here with Thursday Night Football. I mean, it was actually an entertaining game, believe it or not. Burrow versus Mayfield. Both these guys, a lot of expectations. Obviously, Mayfield, a little more pressure on him to succeed. Second year had to come out strong. And he looked good, but he was playing the Bengals, man. And, Chubb looked great. Kareem Hunt looked great. Everybody looked good. Was it because they were going through Swiss cheese of a defense with the Bengals, or were they actually really good? What are your thoughts on the game?
The Bengals aren't as bad as you think, number one. Number two, what I think you have to first look at as week 1 to week 2, you see the Bengals play the Chargers. Chargers have a good defense. Bengals put up, 13 points in that game or something like that. And they should have tied it or even won it in the fourth quarter. The Bengals made some improvements on defense in the offseason. And then you just put Joe Burrow in there, and they're a hell of a lot more interesting, more fun to watch, and better than last year. They are not a bad football team. They're not terrible to watch. As far as being good, listen, they're 0-2. They're going to have their pains this year. But I like Joe Burrow. Looks like he's going to be the real deal over there. The only thing that concerns me is his average is like 5 yards per pass or per attempt. I mean, he had 61 attempts last night, and I'd like to see him air it out. But I want to see him actually air it out and take more shots down the field. AJ Green does not look good. He's had good in both weeks, and that's. Listen, if I'm them, I get rid of AJ Green at the deadline. You're not going anywhere this year. Get a draft pick for him, unless you really value his veteran leadership. But let T. Higgins step up and make some plays. Let the two other, Tyler Boyd, and I know you don't have much in John Ross and the other rest of the crew, but let those guys play and see what you got. Okay, yeah, AJ's not going anywhere. Get a second round, get something for AJ Green is what I think the Bengals should do. But the Bengals held the Chargers last week, right? The Bengals looked okay on offense. Do you like Joe Burrow? I think he's going to be a star.
I like Burrow. I got to go back to AJ Green. It was ridiculous. What do you have? Like 13 targets, 3 receptions. It was disgusting to watch. I don't know. I mean, a lot of that. I mean, there was a couple balls that were thrown behind him. He wasn't getting to them, and I think that partly some of those were Burrow's fault. But AJ Green just not looking good, man. I mean, I would say like he was falling down for, he's been going on a decline for years, and partly due to injury. Sure. But this is why I kind of stayed away from him. Yeah, let T. Higgins go. He was 6 for 3. He had 35 yards. T. Higgins get a little bit more involved. Tyler Boyd looked good. 8 targets, 7 receptions. He did get that touchdown. And the way he came down with that touchdown was pretty impressive. He did the toe tap in there near the end of the back end of the end zone. Yeah. He looked pretty good. So, I mean, yeah, it's time to move on, I think, from AJ Green completely. I think Burrow looks like the real deal. Obviously, he needs a little more time. He's a rookie. But even though his protection was collapsing, he looked good in the pocket. He moved out of harm's way, ran for some extra yardage. He looked good. I think Burrow could be special. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Now, Mixon, if you want to start talking running backs, I wasn't impressed with Mixon. As a guy that I kind of avoided. In fantasy football, averaging 2.9 yards per carry. I mean, that's just unacceptable for a guy, 16 attempts, just not getting it done. But Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, now I gotta get this out and we can get back into the realism as well of this game and what our thoughts are. But I gotta talk about this because I stayed away from Nick Chubb. He had a phenomenal fantasy football game yesterday, but again, I think the defense wasn't that good with Cincy, 26.3 PPR points. But he could have had 50 points, but Kareem Hunt came in there and took half. So what I'm saying is, based on the 9 or 10 games they've played together since Kareem Hunt's come back from that suspension last year, altogether they played like 8 or 9, 10 games. Kareem Hunt always gets half. And that's all I'm saying is that, we didn't even see Nick Chubb in the third quarter, Tom.
No. But I mean, can he handle the full load? Like, your guy in Kamara doesn't get a full load of touches either. at running the ball. So is he like a poor man's Kamara?
Maybe. Yeah, Kareem Hunt is. Yeah, I think so.
He had some success. Was it in Kansas City when he running the ball I think he was a rookie, but
Yeah, he was.
I think Chubb is the better running back, pure running back. As far as being versatile, Kareem Hunt, I think, is more of that in that Kamara mold, kind of that kind of player. And he has more versatility in the passing game, but he can also run the ball. But Chubb's the guy that's going to pound it, And I know he got stuff like 4 times the goal line. Even though you take away those 4 carries, he would have averaged another yard a carry. I mean, he played very well at some strong runs. But I think they're going to use both of those guys. I mean, listen, the Browns, who did they play week 1? The Ravens. Maybe the Browns are good this year. The Ravens, are they going to keep playing that way as being a top level team? That's why we always say you need 4 weeks to really see who you are, but also see who they played. Because if they started off like 0-1 and they played the Ravens, they could win the next 6 if the Ravens end up, winning 14 games this year. So you kind of have to see what they did the week before early in the season to judge the competition. So your guy, Hunt, he's a good player. He's always been good. He's had off the field issues, but I think they like, listen, Chubb's the man over there as far as being like the number 1 option. That with the coach, and he's running well. He's running good. So I don't think he's going to lose that job anytime soon.
Yeah, the thing is, like I said, the only reason I stayed away from him is because he was coming off early second round, late first sometimes. The reason I stayed away from him is because I want a full, true workhorse running back. I don't want a guy that's in a committee with a guy as good as Kareem Hunt there. And again, this game worked out good. But even if it did work out good, 26 points, and you go and you're playing fantasy this week and you lose by 1 point, why did you lose? Because Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. He stole a rushing touchdown from Nick Chubb. Any way you slice it and dice it, you're losing points. You're going to lose half your points. This game, a little more inflated. Kareem Hunt had 26 points. Next game, he might have 10 points. If that's the case, Kareem Hunt's also going to have 10 points. And that's going to bother you, I'm telling you, all season long. He had a good game. Let's see if that continues.
Yeah, he has a good average yards per carry. He'll be a good player. As far as reaching his potential, being the only running back there, no. But the problem you're going to have is look at Cleveland. Odell was 4 for 74. I think that was all in the first half, wasn't it, or close to it?
Yeah, it was early on with him. Odell did look good. He had that big catch, right? With the big catch for the touchdown. That's what inflated him.
But I mean, listen. You have so many weapons on that offense that are good. You have so many good players on that offense. I'm not saying everyone's great. Landry's had a really big play too. You have some good players on that offense, and you're going to Baker's spreading the ball around. And I think for him to be good, he has to spread the ball around. You can't get locked in on Odell because he's not that good enough to get locked in on. He's not an old school Antonio Brown or one of those guys where you just, he's going to make the catch every time in double, triple coverage. He's not that guy. So. Listen, you got a couple, they play 3 tight ends over there sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they play a Bryant kid too. I mean, they have the tight ends, they got a couple running backs. I mean, they're receivers. I mean, they have weapons over there. And unfortunately, if you're looking at fantasy wise, you're going to have games where, guys barely get anything or guys get a lot. It's just spreading the ball around. You see that, you see that in the Rams, you see that in the Chiefs. You see that's a lot of teams are going to that now. Back to the Bengals. One thing I saw, like AJ Green, seems like I don't know if it's me, but he's having trouble getting separation. He's always feel like he's trying to make a push off or something like that. And he got called for that last week at the goal line. And I saw him do it a couple times now. Maybe his age has just gotten to him and he doesn't have the separation from the DBs, but and the Bengals, like I said, they're not horrible, but I'm excited I like Joe Burrow. I mean, the kid was a star in college. I just, it sucks that he's on the Bengals, but moving forward, I think it's going to be a good watch.
I want to note here, Drew Sample, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 45 yards. And we had Uzomah. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. People say Uzma, whatever. He's injured. I think they're doing MRI.
No, out for the year. Yeah.
Is he out for the year? Yeah. I think he's torn Achilles, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. It's like you might be seeing more of these injuries, Joe, because a lot of teams didn't have OTAs. There were more injuries back in, I think it was 13 when there was no OTAs and stuff when they had the lockout. So you may be seeing more. You have been seeing more big name injuries this year, but you're going to be seeing more they had more tears like Achilles and also more nagging injuries like hamstrings and stuff like that. And that's what you've been seeing. Guys, when you're asked to work out on your own, come on, it's not the same. It's not the same. These guys aren't taking care of their body and getting the treatment that they usually do. So you're going to see more injuries. And that's like AJ Brown out for this week. I mean, Michael Thomas, I don't know if he's playing. Like, You're seeing a lot of injuries from a lot of players.
Good. One thing, so going back to the tight end, though, I absolutely agree. We're going to get into injuries, news, and notes here. But I got to say, Drew Sample's a waiver wire pickup for next week. I'm telling you, try to pick him up, try to get him off the waiver wires, try to pick him up now if he's in your league. Oh, I don't think you can pick him up now because usually it locks after the player played. You got to wait till next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. But listen, Drew Sample's going to get the work. We know Burrow's targeting those tight ends, so he's a guy that you definitely want to target. Again, 9 targets, and then Uzma had 6 targets prior to that. Uzma's gone Sample, and he made that one fancy catch. I don't know if you saw it, kind of like an Odell catch. Drew Sample, he can catch the ball, so he's a guy that I think is going to see around 8 to 10 targets and a touchdown a game based on what we saw last game. I'm excited about Drew Sample.
Yeah, he's a young tight end, you know.
I never thought I'd say that, week 2. I'm excited about Drew Sample. I mean, there's some upside there, especially with DFS, man.
Listen, I mean, Burrow's going to throw to the listen, they threw the ball last night, 61 times. It was a good game. Most people thought it wouldn't be, but hey, it was a good game. The Browns,
I enjoyed it.
The Browns you expected to see last year, but is this the Browns we're going to see moving forward? A shitty game, a bad game, a good game, an 8-8 team. It makes you more exciting to watch week 3 to see what these teams do.
Let's do it. All right. Yeah, man, I'm excited. Week 3 is going to answer. That's why we need 4 weeks to get a good feel and some trends of history, right? So let's go into news and notes here, Tom. Let's just dive in, and then we'll talk a little bit about the players, the situation as we talk about it. First and foremost, James Conner. He goes out, got a little bit of ankle injury or whatever it was, came out. Snell came in, and when Snell came in, damn, he looked pretty good. Didn't look phenomenal, but he looked good. He was getting the attempts, getting the volume. Apparently, from what we're hearing, James Conner ankle, he's taken off the injury report Friday, clearing the path, which was today, clearing the path for him to play for week 2. Now, he hurt his ankle late in the first quarter. What was it? First quarter in the opener.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't get back in. Snell was the guy who earned the confidence of the team, looked really well. It looks like Connor's back, but Conner, man, is he going to continue to get hurt? Like people saying he's made out of glass. What's the deal with this guy?
I mean, he's definitely had his injury concerns, but let me ask you this before you move on. Who does Conner remind you of? Does he remind you of the Carlos Hydes, the Melvin Gordons, that kind of back?
I think so. I think he, again, similar to the way Bell performed. You love Bell. I don't like Bell. Similar to the way Bell and D'Angelo Williams performed when that, a couple years ago when that Steelers offense was really robust and strong. That O-line still is pretty good, but he's a product of the offense. And Antonio Brown was there drawing the double coverage, distracting defenses. And Conner thrived, young, hungry. But now, just showing injuries are taking a toll, showing that he is just a par running back. He's not an ultra elite, in my opinion.
No, I don't think he's got the guts. He's got the glory. He runs hard. He's been through a lot in his life. Respect all the way around. I think he's a serviceable running back in this league, and he'll play, probably another 3 to 5 more years. And, he's going to be a good running back, but he's not a guy where, hey, if Snell's got the hot hand, they're going to go to Snell. I don't know what goes on in practice. I don't know if Snell had a good training camp, a bad training camp, and he just came in and blew it. And this was one good game. They did play the New York Giants, who you and I both know are total trash. So that's another thing. You call Swiss cheese, I call it trash. That's another thing to look at. The Steelers are going at home against the Denver Broncos. They let up 131 yards rushing, I believe, against Derrick Henry. However, it took 130 yards or something, but on 31 carries?
Yeah.
That's a lot of carries. So they didn't necessarily play bad. They have a good defense and a good front seven, and they have their head coach, Vic Fangio, is a very, very good defensive coach. So I don't see the running game being a huge factor in Pittsburgh. I think Roethlisberger needs to beat the Broncos going forward. So I think Conner will struggle this week, and I think Snell will get some PT. Maybe it'll be one of those committee things.
Yeah, man. I don't know how much he's going to play or how it's going to be a committee. Yeah, it's going to be part-time. I think they're going to work him in. I think he practiced this week, but again, a little bit of concern. They want to preserve him. But again, they do have a lot of loyalty towards those running backs.
In general.
Yeah.
So one thing to look at, listen, if your job is on the line, your backup comes in and averages about 5-6 yards a carry. You let him do that again, you may never see the field. So maybe he's rushing back. You don't usually come back that quick from an ankle injury. I don't know. Higher ankle injuries are a lot worse than the lower ankle sprains, a lot worse. So, I mean, is he taping it up and trying to go through it? But then he's not going to have, the same jolt, the same quickness, the same speed. I've seen it time and time again, guys trying to come back too early. Keep an eye on him in the first quarter, see how he moves.
But if we see any more Snell, that would Snell, we'd smell the end of Connor, more Snell, I think. Because
that's what Connor's thinking, Joe.
You're saying. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you wouldn't,
I would be fearful too that I could lose my job, man, because again, James Conner came in hungry this year, and
it's not Michael Thomas who can take a couple weeks off to heal. He's not losing his job.
No, he's not.
And Connor's, I think he's in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken.
Connor needs to perform this year. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much he gets in regards to playing time and how he does compete. And Snell's right up there, man. He's hungry. All right, this isn't that important here. Jack Doyle ankle has been ruled out week 2. We need to note that he's out against week 2 against the Vikings. That's what Frank Wright has come out and said. Anyway, it doesn't matter. More opportunities for guys like Michael Pittman to step up, Paris Campbell, and of course T.Y. Hilton. So I'm not really concerned about Doyle missing a game or so.
What concerns me is that, Indianapolis just does not have the weapons. I mean, T.Y. Hilton looked like he lost a step. He's not his old self, and he's older.
Yeah.
Pittman was a disappointment in his first game, but he is a rookie, so maybe he'll come on strong. Listen, Jack Doyle's Jack Doyle. He's a serviceable tight end. He's good enough. He's an average starter. That's what he is. But he's not a great receiving tight end. So you're right. They will not miss him, but they do need more help in Indianapolis. And I mean, listen, I know you don't love Marlon Mack. I don't either, but he's a good enough running back, a little better than Connor, I think, but on that level,
yeah,
hurts them because maybe unless Taylor can step up and take that.
Taylor will step up. He will. He will.
We need to see that because Hines isn't an every down back, but he's going to catch the ball. But they need a running game to succeed in Indianapolis. You cannot rely on Phillip Rivers throwing for over 300 yards and winning ball games.
Well, I'm just glad that Taylor gets a start. It sucks that it has to come to the cost of Marlon Mack getting injured, but I'm glad, based on what we see at college, he's a workhorse. But I think Naheem Hines will be a force. So fantasy guys, if we're talking Jonathan Taylor, I think Naheem Hines is going to be there because we know, based on history, Phillip Rivers likes to throw the ball a lot. He's running back. We saw with Eckler. So maybe Hines could be the Eckler of the season. And that could be very possible based on what we saw in week 1. So I hope Taylor becomes a 3-down back, but I don't see it. I see Hines in a lot of work in the passing game for sure.
Makes sense.
All right, A.J. Brown here. Now, they are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, the Titans. A.J. Brown, knee problem, will miss week 2 with a knee injury. That's what they're saying. Now, this sucks, man. I mean, a lot of expectations from him from a fantasy perspective, and a lot of people expecting A.J. Brown to take a step up this season. Has not done it in week 1 and now week 2 being out. Corey Davis was the guy, the one from what we saw in week 1. Man, I don't know. A.J. Brown, I mean, when can this guy get going?
That kind of sucks, but Joe, please don't give me any excuses when Minshew comes in and beats up Tannehill this week for the W.
Really?
Brown hasn't played. I love Minshew. Listen, I think they're heavy dogs, maybe 6, 7, 8 points. I think they're going to cover. And listen, Jacksonville's got an okay defense. They have CJ Henderson's a star in the making at corner. He's going to get locked down Corey Davis now. They don't have any other receivers. So this takes away the passing game. And Tannehill's not a great quarterback at passing the ball to begin with.
Got stacked boxes on Henry now.
Henry may carry 30 times, another 30 times. How long can he keep this up?
Geno Smith. They got Geno Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, but he's a tight end, right? So what are you going to do, though? I mean, they don't have any weapons. They cannot come from behind. I like Minshew. I think the kid's got it. And I think this comes down they're going to feed the ball to Derrick Henry. And I mean, if he just takes him down the field, time in, time out, they're going to win this game probably. But and they get a double-digit lead. But I don't know if that can happen. I mean, Derrick Henry's getting the ball. They're going to put 8 in the box and make Tannehill beat him.
Yeah, they got Humphreys in the slot there, Humphreys and Davis, but that's not much of a threat.
Tannehill, though?
I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough week, especially with A.J. Brown out, man. It's going to be really tough. I don't know.
I like him too. It's hopefully it's only a week.
And the thing is, the Titans are favored by 7 points at home. I don't know. They're doubting Jacksonville.
Well, they don't blow teams out. I told you. I mean, listen, Vegas is right a lot of times. This isn't the media making the picks. I'm sorry, creating the spreads, but I mean, listen, everybody's on the Tennessee train. Everyone's on the hype, the Derrick Henry train. You remember they were 9-7 last year. Even though they went to the AFC title game, they were 9-7. They barely won last week. They're in so many close games, and I predict another close game here. And I'm hoping Minshew ekes it out.
Right.
You know?
All right, let's move on here. Not a very impressive performance from either Williams or Devontae Parker in Miami, but Devontae Parker, hamstring problem, was limited in practice Friday. His status will yet to come down to a game time decision this Sunday for Devontae Parker. Now, I'm not really sold on Miami at all this year. They have made some improvements, but Parker's one of those guys that everybody's been hyping up for fantasy. I'm not really sold on him. He is playing against Miami. So he's playing against Buffalo. They are at home. They are a 6-point underdog to Buffalo, which makes sense. But I mean, he didn't look that good last week. I mean, what is he? 4 for 4, 47 yards. And then Preston Williams, 7 targets. He out-targeted Devontae Parker. Preston Williams, we only had 2 receptions. So the receiving core just not looking good here, Tom, for Miami.
No, what was interesting is I think Brian Flores, the head coach of the Dolphins, he came out and said Fitzpatrick's my starter for week 2. They're already calling for Tua.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already calling for him. If you have to come out and say who your starter is, sooner than later, Tua is going to get the job. Now, Fitzpatrick's good for 1 or 2 400-yard passing games a year, but he's a bum. He doesn't need to be in the NFL anymore. And it's pretty sad because you're blowing a season. Dolphins actually have not a bad defense, but they have a horrible, horrible offense. I like Preston Williams, but I don't think he's a guy that can be a number 1 on the team, getting all those targets, way more than the next guy. Devontae Parker had 1 good year last year after 5 years in the league. So let's not give him too much credit.
Right.
Okay. Usually I like to see, and around the league, real personnel people like to see 3 good years of play from a player before you give him credit and call him good. But a lot of times people look at potential, and that's what gets you contracts. That's what gets you, more opportunities. Devontae Parker was a first-round pick, I think out of Fresno State, and he's never really played to his level. The Dolphins have no running game. Their offensive line is young. I think they got a couple rookies on there. They got beat up last week.
Yep.
They're not a good offensive team.
And I gotta say, Fitzmagic, 3 interceptions. Just want to add that last week. And no, it's just terrible. So Tua could be out sooner.
It's tragic.
It's tragic.
There's no magic anymore left in his tank. I mean, they got to get rid of him, but is Tua that bad? I mean, right now in camp, is he not healthy? Or are they just want to make sure, are they trying to sit him out the year? Or maybe they thought Fitzpatrick wanted to play, could give them a chance.
Yeah, they wanted the strong start from the veteran, and clearly that's not working out for them. All right, let's move on here. I got to talk about this here. So Parker, again, limited in practice and will be a game time decision if you do have him in fantasy. Chris Godwin, let's move on here. Under concussion protocol is doubtful. They're going to reevaluate him tomorrow, Saturday. Whenever you're listening to this, it's going to be Saturday when they look at him. He may be upgraded to questionable. Still, I'm really concerned whether he's going to play or not. So, set your lineups accordingly, Tom. Godwin already banged up.
Listen, it's so far they say he's fine, but you have to go through the protocol. So it's not his decision to say I'm fine. He has to go through the protocol. And listen, players, I'm not saying he is. Players lie a lot of times and just play. So, but they have a lot more hurdles you have to get through. And also, you really can't practice all week. Now he's not, he's somewhat of a veteran. So, he can get through the week and he'll play on game day. It'll be a big, they're playing Carolina. I still think they need all the weapons they can get, early in the season. Mike Evans, we don't know if he's 100% either. But with the concussion protocol, I've dealt with that a lot with the players. You're not controlling it right now. So you just have to, and it said today that he was fine, but he's doubtful. So I see if he's fine, I would lean him that he's going to play more likely than not, but don't be surprised if the doctors hold him back because they always err on the side of caution with concussions.
Yeah, as predicted, he was the one, according to week 1. 7 targets, 6 receptions compared to Mike Evans, 4 targets, 1 reception, but Evans did get that 1 touchdown. Now, Scotty Miller getting involved, actually out-targeting Mike Evans. Scotty Miller, 6 targets, 5 receptions there. And this is my concern with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady spreading that ball around, man. And this is why I couldn't trust investing a second-round pick on Godwin and a third-round pick on Evans. Not to mention OJ Howard, out of all people, got 6 targets compared to Rob Gronkowski's 3 targets, right? Cameron Brake had 1 target himself.
Yeah.
So OJ Howard looking like, including a touchdown, which Gronk didn't get. OJ Howard looking like he is the one. But again, it's only week 1. But again, there you have it. Tom Brady spreading that ball around everywhere. And Ronald Jones, 17 rushing attempts, 3 passing targets. But again, not really, the running game was not involved heavily in the passing game at all. So that's something to monitor. Maybe Ronald Jones, he doesn't trust him receiving the ball. Leonard Fournette didn't get much work. It's very suspect fantasy offense other than Tom Brady, who should be performing on an optimal level for fantasy and had a safe game at 20 points-ish. So, I mean, he threw the interceptions killed him. And that's the thing. Brady just, I guess, getting used to that offense. That's my guess.
And also the different the offensive system and the players. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. But listen, Bruce Arians has a different offense than Brady and McDaniels had up in New England. So I think he's a little more aggressive down here. And they tried to run the ball. Ronald Jones isn't a good running back. And let's see what happens moving forward. I think he's going to get everybody involved. But I think they come out and put a lot of points and win this game pretty handily. I can see, like, in the fourth quarter, Carolina coming back and like they did, like kind of like Atlanta did last week, and making it like the score look more respectable. But I think Tampa should win this game easy.
They should. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's move on. There's 4 or 5 other really fantasy relevant players here we got to discuss injuries with. Kenny Golladay, hamstring, was very limited in practice today as he deals with the hamstring injury. That's what Matt Patricia's saying. I don't think he's playing, man. If you want to tear up that hamstring again, then you're just going to prolong the injury. So I hope to God they maybe preserve him for another week and make sure he's 100 before he gets in.
It's another hamstring injury. Another hamstring injury. Once you tweak the hamstring, you got to just wait till it gets healthy. Once you start to rush it back, it's really, really hard. And it's not something you come back in a week for. I know his is longer than that, but listen, it's a sad, sad story in Detroit. Trubisky came back in the fourth quarter. And now what do they play, Green Bay?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, man.
Listen, I think if Golladay comes back and's healthy, I think they beat at least cover Green Bay. But without Golladay, man, I really like Detroit this year too. If they're healthy, to at least compete for the playoffs. They do have a tough team, and they're in every game. But I hope he plays.
But the thing is, with Rodgers coming off a hot week in Green Bay, they're going to be hard to beat. I know Rodgers plays, and the Packers play tough at home. So look out, man. Look out, Packers this week. I got him in a league. I might just have to start Aaron Rodgers this week. I really do.
And I think the good thing for you and everybody else is Green Bay doesn't have a great defense. So they're going to have some high scoring games this year.
Love it, man. Okay, let's move on here. Amari Pooper here, who's not been doing too hot. Ankle is expected to play in week 2, though. Ankle is bothering him. So apparently they went through a mock game and everything was good today. So he doesn't see any setbacks. So Amari Cooper should be playing. But again, Amari Cooper doesn't excite me. With CeeDee Lamb, I think Gallup is the best player there at wide receiver, if you ask me. When he plays, man, he plays with heart. He goes for the ball. It's just that kind of Cooper out targets him most of the time. So that's why he gets most of that volume. But if Gallup had 14 targets, man, I think, he had 14. Cooper had 14 targets. Gallup had 5. CeeDee Lamb had 6. If Gallup had 14 targets, he'd be running over people, man. That guy's good. He's good.
Well, Cooper just got $100+ million. Atlanta comes to Dallas. Big game. Dallas starts off 0-2. You're going to hear a lot of trouble there.
Yeah.
I think Dallas takes this game. Atlanta, they finished strong. They threw the ball 450 yards, but they have no defense. I think Dallas wins strong at home, and I think if with or without Cooper. But yeah, I would be careful with
it's
Cooper.
It's going to be a tough game because Atlanta's got the weapons, man. It's just their defense. You're right. It's just not holding it together.
Yeah.
And Ryan has to throw like 1,000 yards, and they're still losing. I don't know what to tell you.
Like that, man. You need to get the running back. You need get the running game involved a little bit. Get Gurley the ball.
Yeah.
Listen, Julio Jones is a beast. Calvin Ridley is a beast, I think. We're saying he just doesn't get the opportunities. He had a big game last week. but moving, they have, a good tight end. They got good running back now, but they, I don't know, but they just don't have it. Like, it just doesn't gel.
All right, let's move on here. More important, fantasy relevant. Two more players, particularly here, very fantasy relevant. George Kittle, knee. And if you saw that, it was like a hyperextension. It kind of bent inwards slightly. I thought he was really screwed, but he can't, he hobbled off. Looks like he's going to be a game time decision. That's what we're hearing. If I were them, it looked like a rough knee injury, man. I'd maybe rest him another week if possible, but it looks like he might be playing. If so, possibly limited. So be cautious for the game time decision here.
Two things to look at, Joe. Number one, they started the season off 0-1 against a team. I don't like the Cardinals, but the second thing is they're playing the Jets. So, listen, you don't want to start 0-2 and lose to the Jets, but it's the Jets. Do you waste Kittle on the Jets? They don't have weapons, though. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, they don't have receiving game threats right now.
Pettis is stepping up apparently, but he's not.
They don't have it. I mean, they just don't have that. And their defense, listen, I don't think Richard Sherman's out, but I don't think he's great anymore. He's definitely not great. He's lost a step. He's a good corner, but he's not as good as he thinks he is, and his name brings a lot more to it. So be careful. They have a great defense still. They have a good quarterback, good coaching, but they don't have weapons. But I mean, can the Jets put it together and upset them without Kittle? I mean, Kittle's important to this team, so I'm hoping he plays. But you're right. I would hold him out against the Jets. It's early in the season, not to risk further injury.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we got to talk about this Miles Sanders, who was lower body injury, which turns out it's the hamstring, is expected to make his debut. I'm excited to see Miles Sanders. The guy's got heart. I don't know, man. This week, after coming off last week, Eagles don't look good. I'm not expecting a huge thing out of the Eagles in general. My expectations are low. I don't know, man. Rams, Eagles, Philly at home. They are favored by 1 point. I think the Rams win this one, but what are your thoughts on Philly Rams?
I think the Rams win this one. I told you before, the Eagles are down a few old linemen. I don't know if Lane Johnson's playing again this week. They lost 2 starters. They brought in 38-year-old Jason Peters, who they let go. I think his contract was up before that. They bring him back for guard. Then they move, because he wasn't good enough to play tackle. Then they move him back to tackle. Then their best lineman is gone. They have holes in the line, okay? And Carson Wentz trying to do too much. He did that as a rookie, made a lot of mistakes. And listen, I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to defend him for a second. What weapons did he have last week? Oh, he had the 2 tight ends. I get that. But you need more than tight ends to succeed in this league.
You do. You need a receiver.
No, you need capable receivers. You don't need star receivers all the time, but you need capable wide receivers, because then you can put a corner and a safety, or even a linebacker at one point, depending on the routes, on the tight ends. He doesn't have the help. Alshon Jeffrey, just let the guy go. I mean, I'm done with him. Listen, they won them in Atlanta. Atlanta went to the Super Bowl, gets worse every year. Philly went to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, gets worse every year. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm talking Philly, it looks worse. They're
terrible.
Yeah.
Greg Ward was their number 1 receiver last year. Who's Greg Ward? And Deshaun Jackson? I mean, he's gone.
I think it was a college quarterback. Oh, Deshaun Jackson wants the ball more now. But who's your guy here now? You talking about Miles Sanders. I love the guy. And honestly, if he's 100%, they need him bad. I love the guy. He played behind Saquon, your guy at Penn State. He was kind of lost in the shuffle there, right? Because you're behind Saquon Barkley. So he only had 1 year to shine. He's a really good running back. But another one, I would still play him and see how this line performs, but he's playing behind a bad offensive line.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. A couple other guys. Jamison Crowder ruled out week 2, the hamstring, another hamstring. With Crowder, they don't have any receivers to start with, and he was the guy. I mean, literally, he was the guy in week 1. He had 13 targets, 7 receptions, and a touchdown. He had a good game, man. Jamison Crowder. Now they got nobody. They got to throw the ball to Chris Hogan and Perriman. Not good for the Jets at all, man. They're a disaster.
I mean, they got to listen. You banked it on, not you, but the Jets. I said this before. I'll say it again. They should have took CeeDee Lamb instead of a left tackle from Louisville who's a hit or miss.
Yep.
Best player, not for need. And that's when people make problems. And listen, there's no guarantee CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy would have been a star, but you get a number 1 receiver for your quarterback. your young quarterback. Even the Browns went and got Landry and Odell.
Yep.
And then they drafted a left tackle this year. It took them a couple years. And then they signed Conklin at the right off of Tennessee. Went, the right tackle. He didn't even play last night. He's still hurt. But
Yep.
even like when Peyton Manning got drafted, who did they take? They had Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. I mean, you draft a young receiver to go with your quarterback. The Bengals got T. Higgins this year. But it's true. They don't it's a very poor job of building that roster. They lost their best player, Jamal Adams, to Seattle. They traded him away, and he whined his way over there. Listen, fits that team perfectly. I don't care who you put it. I don't know. I don't think they have a good line to protect Donald. Still, it's better. Jamison Crowder, he's okay, but I wouldn't even whatever. I wouldn't think he would be a great receiver even healthy.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're toast this week. I can't imagine them doing anything this week, honestly.
Do you think they get run all over by San Fran?
Well, Bell's out too, right? So they got no receiver.
No running back. But this is what I told you. Look at the depth of a team. They have no depth. Frank Gore's starting. Okay, you can say that's depth, but they don't have young. When I look at depth, I look at young players. They don't have depth. This roster was built so poorly. Where's the depth at receiver and running back?
It's terrible.
Last year, the backup quarterbacks in the second and third string. I mean, after Donald, they were so bad.
They're in trouble. What's the spread on that? Let me pull that up here.
I think it's 7.
49ers are favored by 7. That should be a slaughter, but 49ers are banged up too. So
yeah, it's anything can happen in the NFL too. And those games you think you don't got.
Yep, it could be an upset, right?
I mean, what if Sam Darnold throws for 350 somehow? What if Frank Gore rushes for 175 yards before he hits the nursing home? I don't know, Joe.
And that's the thing when you bet on games, it's weird because if you look at week 1, I mean, if you look at who was a lock, I thought the Colts would have beat Jacksonville. I thought that was a lock. Other ones here, 49ers, I thought they'd beat the Cardinals. I mean, that was an upset. How about the Buccaneers? Who would have thought it would have been, 11-point difference there? I mean, Eagles should have beat Washington. Washington upset. So you really don't know, man. Anyone can beat anybody any week, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. And look how New Orleans won. Would you have thought New Orleans won with that Drew Brees stat line?
No.
Exactly. You thought he would have put up 325 yards passing, 4 touchdowns.
Easily. 400. Yeah.
It didn't happen. They didn't even have a 100-yard rusher. Look, I mean, the only one, Mahomes delivered. Even Roethlisberger delivered. Even Roethlisberger, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, some guys delivered. But Drew Brees didn't deliver, and they still
160 yards for Drew Brees in that game. He did get the 2 touchdowns, but man, just nothing.
That stat line, and you tell me if you think they would win.
It looks like a clear loss to me, man. Honestly,
those 2 picks, the pick 6, but still, either way, I mean, you just don't know. That brings us to your next guy, Michael Thomas. I mean, Michael Thomas. He's probably a top 5 receiver in the NFL, right?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on him this week?
Man, I think he's going to force it. I think he really wants to get back in. I know he's a tough guy, but I think similar to Kittle, I think if any of these guys, even Golladay, if they come back a little premature, they can re-aggravate the injury and screw themselves. I mean, Kittle, Golladay, Thomas, just sit down for one more week, chill it out. We're still early in the season. Come back strong when you come back. But at this point, maybe it's a little because for his type of injury, they say 3 to 5 weeks. He's going to come back after a week with an ankle sprain?
High ankle too. Yeah, we don't know how bad it was, but honestly, a lot of times they are that long. I've dealt with them a shitload of times.
That's crazy. I mean, I would just wait. I mean, it's been less than a week, right? It's been a week. It's a 3 to 5 week injury. You're going to pull yourself back in, and then you're not even playing at 100%, right? Then you're going to, come out there. Yeah. People start you in fantasy, and you go screw everybody because you're not playing optimal. So, I'd rest it. I'd rest it. So. Yeah, man, we covered a lot here. News, notes for fantasy football and reality football NFL week 2. Tom, anything else we need to cover here at all?
Well, we covered a lot of it. We said, we started off with the, AJ Brown. He's definitely out. Just so Miles Sanders, it's pretty likely he played. It's not 100% yet. That's something. Just tell your people to keep an eye on. He's expected to play, but anything could happen over there. Philadelphia's O-line, we spoke about. Golladay, I don't think he's going to end up playing. We spoke about that. I think Golladay, I wish he would play. I don't think he will. Like we said, Uzmar's done for the year. Jack Doyle, not a concern in my mind. What's your biggest takeaway from this?
With injuries? You mean like, what do you mean?
Yeah, just the news, going into week 2. What are you most excited? I'll tell you what are you most excited about?
I just want to see how everything plays out. Which team is the real deal? Like we talked about, which team is going to separate themselves and show us they're the real deal. Are Buccaneers coming out week 2, and are they going to come out strong? Are they like, yes, Brady, we've got all these weapons. Are they coming? Who's the real deal? I got so many questions. Are the Cardinals the real deal after week 1? Are Pittsburgh going to separate themselves? Are they coming out strong at home and blow out the Broncos, right? I still got a lot of, Atlanta and Dallas. That's actually my high. I'm really excited about this game because I got Gurley and Ryan in a lot of my fantasy leagues. How is that game going to play out? I mean, is Dallas for real? Is Dak, proving to the world? Like, still a lot of questions. I'm just excited, man. I'm excited about the committee with the Rams. I'm excited. Is Akers going to be the guy, or is Malcolm Brown, a guy who hasn't wowed us for years, going to continue to get that goal line work, or is Cam Akers going to emerge? How's Jonathan Taylor going to look? So many questions, man. It's like a male soap opera. I know a lot of women watch football too, but for me, because I'm a man, I got to say it. Male soap opera for me. So many questions. I need to know, Tom. I need to know.
We got, the Ravens at the Texans, Patriots at the Seahawks. Those are 2 very good games on Sunday. The first one's at 4:25, and the Patriots and Seahawks on a Sunday night game. I'm looking forward to watching that game. The Bucs, you mentioned Carolina and Tampa Bay. I think that's going to be a shootout, which more points at the end for Carolina because I don't think they can. But Tampa Bay has a good defense. We got to remember that. Broncos and Steelers is going to be a slugfest. Steelers are 7.5-point favorites, but Denver, Drew Lock is good. I mean, listen, is Cortland Sutton playing? We didn't mention him.
I think he's still banged up. I think he's going to be a game time decision as well.
That's an important man for them because I think with Cortland Sutton, they cover and can win in Pittsburgh.
He was limited in practice. That's what I'm hearing. So I don't know about Cortland. That's the latest I've got on him.
That kind of sucks. We don't have anything out on him, huh? See, I like that game. I mean, I think that's going to be. I like Drew Lock. I told you that. I like Drew Lock. I like Gardner Minshew. I like my guys. I mean, my guys. I mean, Drew Lock didn't. I mean, listen, he played a tough Tennessee defense. You got the Giants at the Bears. I don't care too much about that game. I think the Bears will beat them up and win by a touchdown. Your game, the Falcons and the Cowboys. Yeah, that looks like a good game.
Yeah.
So we got some good games here. Even the Lions, Packers, Vikings, Colts. That's a good football game. Yeah. Vikings, Colts. One of those teams is going to be 0-2, and they both thought they were making the playoffs, and they still can. But we got a lot of football to go after this.
I'm excited, man, and I hate Fridays now. I hate Fridays. Give me Sunday, damn it! I want Sunday. I just want to fast forward to Sunday.
You just had a Thursday night game.
No, I'm not. It's an appetite. It's like, honestly, you know what it feels like? It's like you go for dinner, you have your appetizer, and then you got to wait 5 hours for the main course. That's what it feels like between Friday and Sunday. I'm hungry now. Give me more football, damn it.
Well, do we have college? I don't even pay attention to college football.
I don't either. I will be watching UFC tomorrow. There's some good fights on the UFC tomorrow. So, all right, man. Well, we got to go now. Listen, I got to go eat something. Friday night. We got this show a little bit later, so we got to get it edited and out to everybody to see. Listen, Tom, I'm excited. Football's back, week 2, and man, oh man, I'm excited. All right, Tom. Anything else?
Not right now.
All right, we are out, guys. Thank you for being.